Hi everyone, I hope everyone is doing fine. So what I'd like to do is start to introduce the mathematical model that we talked about in the previous lecture. So what we have here is output equals, which is yt, is broken up into two parts. The natural level of output ynt, and also the cyclical component of output yct. Okay? And we defined those in the previous lecture. So we're now going to write ynt to be equal to this expression, which equals beta, which we'll explain in a second, plus ynt minus 1, what the natural level of output was last period. And then plus a supply shock st. So let's go through these each individual component. Beta represents the average growth in the natural level of output. So the natural level of output is going to grow by beta each period or each year. And we will explain that mathematically a little bit later on in a subsequent lecture. So we have the growth in output of the natural level of output, I should say. Plus, we also have the natural level of output is influenced by what the natural level of output was last period. So it kind of represents inertia in the economy. So the level of output this period will be influencing what the level of output was, it will be in the next period. So, and we'll be seeing that a little bit more clearly later on. Then plus ST, and this ST is going to be a supply shock, which we'll explain in a little bit. So, beta represents the average growth rate in the economy, okay, mostly represented by the movements in the natural level of output. And then ST is a supply shock, okay, and the supply shock will be represented as productivity shocks, but we'll get there in a second. So ST has certain characteristics. Its average value is 0, and then 50% of the time observations of ST are larger than 0, and 50% of the time observations, that's OBS for observations, is less than 0. So what we're going to see is the cyclical component of output actually has a random component to it. It's kind of wavy looking, but we'll be plotting that in a little bit. So, if we can step back, the natural level of output has three parts. The constant growth rate, beta, also what the natural level of output was last period, and plus what the supply shock is going to be. And a supply shock will sometimes be positive and sometimes be negative. So, let's stop here and